Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the Sona SuperStudio 2020 reading of the brief session. I hope everyone's having a lovely Sunday and is just as excited as us to finally release the brief and get started on the competition. So my name is Kieran. I'm the Sona National Vice President for Events and Competitions this year. In the call also we have Maddie from the Queensland chapter and Claire Humphreys from Kirsten Thompson and Cameron from the University of Queensland, who are our fantastic creative directors this year and have been working hard behind the scenes to deliver this brief. And we'll run you through it a bit later in the session to help you kind of pick it apart and take your first steps forward. But we thought we might start off just by going over the kind of logistics of the week and how that might work. If anyone has any questions, you can feel free to ask. So if everyone kind of pulls up the SuperStudio website, you'll be able to see the table that has all of the important dates in case you are wondering what's on and what's available. And we'll also be kind of promoting things on Instagram. So if you're wondering when all the session times are and what's going to be happening, then just feel free to watch that. So at the very start of that, you'll see the reading of the brief session, which is what we're doing right now. And I just talked about the intentions and what that is. And it's probably worth noting as well that if you couldn't make it today, this will be recorded, and that register here link on the website will then link to this recording. So if you have any queries or don't know how to get started, then feel free to have a look at that. It's also worth noting that to register, you'll have until 7:30 tomorrow night, Australian Eastern Standard Time. So if you're still deciding whether or not to do the competition, or you just want to kind of get a feel for the brief and then decide, you've definitely got time to wait, and just make sure you do register or you won't be able to submit in the end. When you register, you'll be prompted to pick 2 mentoring sessions, which will happen on the Tuesday and the Thursday, and they'll just be done your typical kind of Zoom critique style mentoring with waiting rooms and group calls, and you'll be paired with mentors from around the country, and you'll be able to talk for say 15-20 minutes about your proposals and where it's going and get feedback. So definitely sign up to those and try not to miss them. It's probably worth noting as well that although this might look like a lot to do, anyone who's done SuperStudio previously would know that it was typically done over a weekend in a kind of design intensive period. But I just want to really stress and emphasize that just because we have spread it out throughout the week because of the situation of doing it virtually, and because every state has kind of different rules and restrictions on gathering, it doesn't mean that you're expected to work full time on it, hard out throughout the week. This still should be the same sort of proposals and workload, I guess, as SuperStudio in previous years, but we've just spread it out to give people a bit more freedom and kind of turned it into like a mini sort of festival around the themes of SuperStudio, putting things like these design day presentations in where you can log on and listen to some speakers that we've organized and ask them questions related to the theme and the brief. And they're not compulsory. You don't need to study for them or anything. It's just something extra that we thought to try and make it a little bit more engaging because we can't do this face-to-face this year. But they will be happening on Monday and Wednesday. So again, you'll find the links on this website on the screen, and we would highly encourage you to come along. And also they'll be open to the public. So if you've got some friends who maybe couldn't join, or some friends you might think would be interested in the speakers, then definitely share those links around. You'll notice that the final presentation is on Saturday, the 5th of September. This will be done in a state-based Zoom call, and the link should be sent out by the reps via email. The submission requirements are outlined on the website as well if you scroll down. Yep, so it should be a single PDF with a maximum of 5 sheets uploaded to a Google Drive or Dropbox, and they will be shared in the Zoom chat, and you can kind of go over them then in the way that you would typically present something on Zoom at university. And there'll be the local jury and the reps from your state there to talk, give you guys feedback on how you went, and then go off and deliberate and pick 3 local winners, so first, second, and third, and then the winner in each of those brackets will go on to be judged by a national jury, which will be in the running for that $3,000 main prize. If you cannot make this Saturday session, then we've opened up the option to record yourself presenting it as you would with whatever software you like. And you would need to email that to the sonar@architecture.com.au email there, which is linked, by Friday, the 4th of September, so the day before, just to give us time to then put that into the jury's presentation. But I think I also want to emphasize that although you have the option to record it, it's definitely recommended that you do come to that live session, because it's important to get feedback, I think, live and have that conversation. And from my experience with SuperStudio, if maybe you present something and there's still something not quite clear, then the jury will be able to ask that, and you'll be able to kind of clarify things a lot better. And I think you'd have a much better chance if you did attend that Saturday session. So the local prizes this year will vary from state to state, and you can contact your local reps if you have any questions about what they may be or how that's going to work. So that's basically the outline of the week. Maddie, feel free to jump in if I've missed anything. It's sort of a lot to cover, but I think we got there. And I think if anyone has any kind of dying questions about just how the week's going to run, maybe this is a good time to ask. But if not, I'll introduce Claire and Cameron again to start to talk about the brief, and you guys can grab it off the link in the chat, which I think Maddie has sent or just sent then, and kind of read through it while they go through it with you guys.
Yeah, so I have a doubt regarding the schedule.
Yep.
Yeah, so sorry, I just came a bit late. So I just want to know what this means, design day plus presentations, apart from mentoring. So do we have to get connected via Zoom for these 2 days, for design day and presentation?
Yeah, so design day basically means you guys have the day to design and develop your proposals. So that's nothing required there. But the presentation, is sort of typical Zoom style lecture. So we'll have those connect here links, which will link you to a Zoom chat, and we'll have, the speakers there, similar to this sort of session we're doing now. But yeah, and they're not compulsory by any means, but it's definitely highly recommended, because the speakers are going to be talking about the themes in the brief and kind of giving you guys some creative direction, and you'll have a chance to actually ask them questions related to your proposals if you want, if you can frame it like that.
Sure, all good. Thanks.
No worries. Any other questions? It looks like it's not. Oh, wait, no, there's one in the chat. So the question was, do you have to come to both mentoring sessions? The answer is technically no, I don't think you do. But if you want to make the most of those mentoring sessions, I think maybe you might use the first one to talk about your concept and how that's been formulated. But then maybe the second one, you get some feedback on how you're thinking of presenting it. That's sort of the way I thought it would be structured. But no, nothing's really compulsory throughout the week. As I said, we've just split it up to make it a bit more flexible nationwide and try and keep a little bit more of that engagement, even though we're all virtually and some are isolated and some aren't.
Can I just add to that? Just with your mentoring session though, if you aren't able to attend, it would be very helpful to let us know. Just sending an email through to myself or the Sona at architecture.com.au email. We've got a tight timetable with everyone locked in and mentors from all over Australia. So if you're not able to come, if you can let us know, that would be really helpful. But as Kieran said, if it's in your best interest to come along, and it's a really good opportunity to help with your proposal. So yeah, just wanted to add that.
Is there a file size limit? I guess the rule of thumb is try and get it as small as possible. So make sure you're reducing your PDFs and all of that. I don't think there's a limit per se, but if you are having trouble uploading and whatnot, then it's probably just a good idea to get in contact with your local rep so you can organize how you might get around that. Do we use the link in the confirmation email to connect to the mentor session? I'm not sure if I can really answer that because I'm not quite sure which link, but I think it would be. And if not, if you get stuck, I'm just going to emphasize, just go back to that website. That little table we've got set up is going to have all of the links you need, I think. Or is this for the local sessions?
So the link to the link to your mentoring session was sent in your confirmation email, and as Kieran said, it's also available on the website as well. So you would just need to join that mentoring session at the time that you have registered for. So if you've booked in for 6:30, connect at 6:30. If you're late, it's going to shorten your amount of time with the mentor because it's quite a strict timetable.
Yep, and we've got, would the design day presentations on Monday and Wednesday be recorded in case you cannot attend? And yes, absolutely, they will be recorded, and they'll, just like this reading of the brief session, that link will take you to those recordings once the session's over. I'll just put one more call out for any final questions, and then we might move on to picking apart the brief. Also, maybe I might ask if someone in the chat could just say yes or thumbs up if all that link is working and everyone can view the brief PDF that Maddie sent through. Yep, okay, awesome. Sorry, it's just really hard to read an audience on a Zoom call. Okay, well, without further ado, into the fun stuff. We've got, I would like to introduce Cameron Brune from the University of Queensland and Claire Humphreys from Kirsten Thompson Architects. Cameron, Claire, and I, and Hudson, one of my fellow peers, have been working for the last few months to develop this brief. And typically the way it would work is we kind of came up with some themes we wanted to touch on and what we wanted the participants to get out of this event, and then brought Cameron and Claire on to help develop that into a design exercise that would hopefully result in what we believe was the best for everyone to do this year. And the themes we came up with were renew. So that's pretty self-explanatory. We've had quite a hectic year. It's been unprecedented on many fronts. And I think this theme of renewing things that have been either disrupted or destroyed is a really kind of powerful thing to engage with in the current situation in the world. However, we are also conscious that even though this year has been quite hectic, it can come across as really gloomy and kind of really, I guess, just not positive in some sense. So we wanted to try and steer away from just presenting all of these problems and making everyone really worried and angst about them, and instead try and flip it into using these as an opportunity to inspire, you know, the people. So I think, as Cameron and Claire will start explaining in a second, with the sites and events that you'll be working with, it's really important not to lose sight of our kind of sub theme, which is agency through inspiration. So trying to use design as a tool to inspire people. And yes, I think with that kind of outlines what we initially intended all the participants to get out of the event, and hopefully you can see how that manifested into the final brief. And I'll pass it on to Cameron and Claire here to go through it.
Thanks, Kieran.
Thanks,
so yeah, we're going to literally read the brief. And maybe just to add that we hope this will be something to inspire yourselves as well, that, you know, you volunteered to do this in a pretty difficult time, and hopefully you'll personally get something out of it, that it doesn't feel like more work and it's enjoyable. So yeah, we set preamble. So this beautiful quote from Alice Walker: "Though we've all encountered our share of grief and troubles, we can still hold the line of beauty, form and beat. No small accomplishment in a world as challenging as this one. Hard times require furious dancing. Each of us is the proof." Maybe dancing in your living room. So the extreme events of the past year cannot be ignored. Landscapes have been violently damaged by bushfire, drought, water and wind. It is clear that climate change has not registered our state borders, even though we suddenly have. And the empty streets of lockdown have swelled with the massive collectivism of global protest movements, only to empty again. Industrial explosions have destroyed an ancient living sacred site in our country and have devastated an entire city in another. Meanwhile, many of us are experiencing this intense self-awareness of our own bodies like we never have before, re-inhaling breath trapped by a face mask, monitoring everything we touch and measuring our distance from others. From our homes, the local and international become conflated on our newsfeed, especially when many of us aren't allowed to visit the other side of our own city or the next town over.
Thanks, Claire. So our provocation. Humans have a long history of dealing with uncertainty and tragedy, and we know that the current situation that many of us are dealing with is both unsustainable and prescient. Renewal and healing can come through collective displays of grief and empathy. So we ask, how can we come together while we're all physically grounded, with many of us sheltering in place? If we're going to do a design studio, like SuperStudio, in the middle of all this, then it should be something that takes us away from our everyday lives and our everyday work. This is a time to be imaginative, caring, serious-minded, and romantic.
So this year, SuperStudio would like you to find a place in the world that has been desolated, damaged, or destroyed that has particularly resonated with you. You've never been there and you can't travel there now. What place have you spent too much time thinking about or too much energy not thinking about? This studio is not about solving the problems of a place. It is about finding a way through the problems of our collective psyche. Your studio response to this place should aim to help you and others process the events that have occurred there. There is no particular kind of approach required. You're encouraged to be meaningfully inventive. It could be some form of memorial. It could involve a ceremony, an event, an occupation, reclamation, action, or protest. Perhaps it is something to be experienced in silence and alone. Your relationship to this place doesn't need to be knowledgeable, but it should be respectful. Consider how you approach this gap in understanding as part of your response. Consider how your proposal may allow people to grieve, but it will also inspire and renew them. Will people attend the site physically, or do they participate from a distance? Will your proposal include those who are far away? How will your proposal transform the site? Will this be immediate, or will it evolve and change over time? What is your intent here? What might be the future of this place?
So the method. As a first exercise, forensically examine a single photo or video from this place. Explore its spatiality. All you know about this place is what you can infer from this photo or video. What do you think it might smell like? What details can you observe in the buildings or landscapes? What do you think has been lost? Where is the real trauma? What opportunities can you see inside the image? Bring in other disciplines if needed to inform the project or the presentation. This might include the knowledge of any non-architecture students you're cohabiting with during lockdown. So here we encourage you to involve your whole house, particularly those people who are stuck at home, to think about how your thinking in architectural terms might align with other people who you're living with. When developing a response, you're encouraged to use tools that will help you explore and think creatively. Use your hands, test things rapidly, shut your eyes, try something different. So we've got some links below that you can use as guidelines to formulate your response. Should you desire to respond to a different image or set, you should be prepared to back up your decision to steer away from the images below in your presentation.
And maybe to add to that, part of the reason we've included images is that for some people, doing a lot of research to understand the place is really important, but this is SuperStudio. So, you know, if you feel like just approaching it on that sort of higher level helps you focus on something, might help you see something different in the place, that it can be something more kind of immediate and rather than something that's much more kind of intellectual. If that makes sense. And also that the problems are very large and could become overwhelming. So trying to pull it back to just a single photo might be a way into the problem.
Great. Thanks, Kieran.
Oh, we might just also touch on the criteria.
Oh, yeah, great
I think
idea.
maybe that's a good.
Yep. Claire, do you want to do that?
Sure, except it's not on my screen.
I can do it.
Sorry.
So the judging criteria that we've outlined are empathy towards others. How well have others been considered in your proposal? Sense of renewal. How does the proposal consider its legacy towards its place? This applies to all proposals, regardless of the length of time they intended to exist. Experiential qualities. How well have students considered the experiential qualities of their proposal, whether physical or otherwise? How well are these intended experiences conveyed? Conceptual clarity. Is there a clear idea driving the proposal? How well have the students described the motivation for their proposal? And finally, meaningful inventiveness. Have the students been creative, and does this have purpose? Do decisions made support the ideas driving the proposal?
No, excellent. Thank you for that. I might use this opportunity actually to ask the chat if there's maybe one or two questions that someone would like to ask Cameron and Claire while we still have them, just about the brief and where it's heading. But if not, then I guess thanks everyone for joining us. I'll also open up the mic back to Madeline in case there's anything else we just need to quickly finally cover, but looks like we're all good.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot, and there's a lot of information to go through this morning in the briefing document. But just as Kieran said, this is a really good opportunity to ask any questions you have. We've got Cameron and Claire here, and Hudson and Kieran who worked on the brief. So if there's any questions, now's the time. But if not, I think everyone's quite busy reviewing the brief and thinking.
Yeah, ready to get into it.
Yeah. So there's nothing from my side. As Kieran said, if there's any questions through the week, we're always here. DM us on Instagram, email through to Sona, or email me if we've been emailing. But yeah, there's heaps of ways to communicate. So if you're stuck or have any issues, make sure you reach out.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like we have a compliment on the brief. Oh, great. Okay, well, we might end the session there then.
Have a great week, everyone.
Yeah, and best of luck. We're really keen to see all of the proposals.
Yeah, and hopefully enjoy yourselves as well.
Yes.
Advice, Claire.
Try to.